So welcome back. Good afternoon. It's time for our next session, and it's my pleasure to welcome Prashant Sharma, somebody whom I've known for many years. Prashant Sharma, let me read out, is part of the Zydus senior leadership team. Zydus, as you know, is one of the India's top leading pharma companies, and he manages the group manufacturing and technical services for both formulation and API at Zydus Life Sciences. Needless to say, he's an engineer and I'm sure also an MBA. He has been in business roles for over 30 years, 3 decades, and has managed global supply chain, human resources, which I always found very interesting, corporate communication, and of course now operations. These are the portfolios in MNCs and global Indian organizations. He's been with Zydus for a long tenure now. He believes that learning and agility and formative experiences shape a leader. The foundation for both is a keen desire to keep learning and challenging oneself, taking risks and building teams that perform better than oneself. So with that, I would request Prashant San to please come forward. He will be sharing his experiences. Just as a backdrop, I'm sure you will explain, but Zydus has been running a very structured operational excellence program called SLIM and others, which he will explain. SLIM stands for Strategic Lean Integrated Manufacturing. And somebody like me should not be speaking about SLIM, but that is the name of the program. And over to Prashant. Thank you, Prashant sir. So you have the slide changer
here. So when I arrived, Mr. Grover said, you're just in time. And in India, my learning as a supply chain professional is that you have 3 systems of, let's say, supply chain management. There is JIT, just in time. There is JAT, just after time. But India, in Pune today, I realized what works is shit, somehow in time. So, and this is, most operations in India has been working, if I can use the word, shit in a shit manner, but that's somehow in time you get things done, things move in the country. You mentioned my HR experience, Jayan-san, and actually, if I look back at my career, my HR experience has been the most interesting one. And I'll just spend a couple of minutes because first thing which I realized, HR is like, I joked with my HR colleagues, and I can take some liberties in making HR jokes because I have been an HR head. I said, HR is like वो जो मंदिर में जूते का एक वो होता है, जहाँ जूते रखते हैं आप. So you only encounter the jute ka stand, shoe stand twice. When you enter the temple, when you exit the temple. And I said, HR also sometimes you meet only twice in a company. When you enter the company and you're exiting the company, beach mein somehow HR goes missing. And then, I started asking my HR colleagues, all of them with experience of 2 decades, 3 decades. I said, where did you learn HR? And I didn't get any responses. And other than their college. Now, what we know is that most of us did not learn anything in college. We did basics, but industry had to prepare us to contribute in the true sense. Then I asked a very basic question. I said, where did you learn interviewing people? Interviewing, and then the word which I used was assessing people, because in an interview, you are assessing people. But not just in an interview, on a day-to-day basis, when you're taking a promotion decision, you are assessing a person. And you're not even assessing a person for the past, you're ideally assessing the person for the potential that the person has or should display, and how do you assess it? And you realize that the HR community has not prepared itself. So there's no HR for HR. And Jayansan very nicely over breakfast told me that how the Kaizen Institute has Kaizen for Kaizen, right? And that's something which, and when you look at even operations excellence, right, I realize that we have not done much as a community for HR. And but that team touches everyone. So in those 3 years, we were able to establish processes. I had to unlearn a lot of my engineering, but also establish some of the engineering mind. I was working with one professor, Biju Varki from IIM Ahmedabad, and they are now writing a case study on our HR journey at that time. So we introduced assessments in our promotion discussion, and even now, all promotions in Zydus happen basis a journey which is a pre-assessment. You assess the competency of a person, then you take them through a learning journey, and then you reassess them. And if there is a delta in their competencies, you reward them for that through a growth. Now, a lot of these slides I can skip, and this is Gyan, so I will skip it. Adrak Adkar, I don't know, my team has worked very hard, but I'm sorry. So I will, share with you my own experience, because all of this is material you will get on Google anyway. When I will share one experience before, this one, which is very close to my heart. So I was the head of, in Zydus, we call it GDS, so Global Demand and Supply Organization. That's what I was brought in for. I was very lucky in my first year. What happened was that in 2008 Olympics, you're aware that because of the Olympics, China had decided to shut down a lot of factories, and therefore, many people had overbought. And then when post-Olympics, China reopened, they were producing, but people were sitting in inventories in India, and therefore many things became cheaper because China was pushed to sell them at a discount. And therefore we made a lot of savings against typically what most organizations follow is a budgeted price. And suddenly we were showing huge purchase savings. Plus, as a newcomer, when you enter an organization, you have an advantage of the proverbial low-hanging fruit. So there were many things which I could easily address. And we thought that we were doing a fantastic job as a purchase department. And, our chairman, Pankaj Bhai, he one day called me and said, Prashant, I think we should take up a project to look at how do we save money on direct material. And I was, why? Does he think we have not done a good job? Does he not trust me? And itna to kar diya, we are already at rock bottom prices. How does he think we can achieve any more than what we are already achieving? And while he was talking to me as a leader, I went into serious self-doubt. And I do not know, I'm just a year and a half in this company. I've been working so hard. I'm not getting, rather than getting appreciated that you have saved so much money, we are now saying we'll get a third party to come in and, help us save more. But you don't say no to the owner promoter, right? So then you said, okay. So then McKinsey people were appointed, and McKinsey people started working with me. And a lot of these initiatives, you will have somebody like a Kaizen Institute or whoever, right, you choose as a partner. And I began to see them as competition. This third party, right, this McKinsey team at that time, I said, these people are trying to teach me what I have been doing for my life and what my team has been doing for life and what we have done so well in the last year and a half. So I said, okay, karo, batao. And so these people would come up and, typical model is there'll be a partner, and those of you who have worked with these consultants, and then they'll be giving you a team which is on the ground team. And they were coming up with ideas, many of them were ideas which were, I will not even call half-baked, right? They were basically not even a proper dough, but they were there as ideas. And we began to challenge almost all the ideas. And I said, no, this is not practical for this reason. We are in a highly regulated industry. For me, a vendor change, in some industries, maybe a vendor change is much easier. But for me, a vendor change is a big risk assessment, but also investment in terms of taking batches, putting them on stability, seeing whether they behave, not behave. And obviously, some vendors will not. So you will have some batches that you have to throw because the stability failed, so on and so forth. So we said, this is the kind of money and efforts we have to do. I don't even have a team, and then you're coming up with these random ideas, etc. It's basically not accepting this third party at all as a potential partner. And first steering committee came, and chairman on some, and we were like, so McKinsey had created some basic, this is a spend base, this is the aspiration, etc. So they gave a number of some 180 crore rupees as a potential saving. We were like, are you crazy? 180 crore rupees, who can save on it? And our turnover was around 4,500 crore rupees. Like, this is impossible. There was no belief, right? On the day one, the steering committee's day one, we had categories: packing material category, raw material category, excipient category. So we had a person who was with Zydus for a long time. So his target was some 28 crore rupees. And he stood on the stage, and Pankaj Bhai said to that number, 28, this number is low. What can you take as an aspiration? And he said, sir, we'll take 40 crores. And we honestly thought, isko abhi bula ke pito yahan pe. And when he came out, people literally thronged him. And at the end of it, Pankaj Bhai said, we should look at a target of around 220 crore rupees aspiration. And we were like, this 180 itself is not going to happen. And you're telling us to look at a 220, 230 crore rupees. It's a gone case. When I went back, and one of my senior persons cried that day after the meeting, that this is the first time I'm going to fail. That moment was for me a moment of self-reflection. I said, this is where I've taken my team. That my team, because of my energy, which is not willing to absorb change, that entire energy is reflecting upon my team. And the team has given up. And also there's this, third-party consulting organization, which is considered a good organization. We are not letting those people, actually settle down and contribute at all. And then luckily this was followed by a weekend. I introspected, and then we reconvened as a team. I got and I shared with McKinsey very, very openly, this is what I was thinking. Now let's regroup and redo this. Eventually we did 250 crores. But the point is that those lessons learned, right? So then lines between us and the consulting organization blurred, right? We were like, okay, milke karenge. And what we thought is this person, who was an old timer, who we thought is not the brightest of them all, is willing to take a challenge. And we are saying, listen, how did you take the challenge? You didn't talk to the team. And a lot of these change managements happen by what I call a leap of faith. And the more you're grounded in data or so-called realism, and you will never then fly, right? And for me, that has been a transformational experience as a leader, on how a leader, his own self-doubt, his own inhibitions can completely ruin the environment, a project, demotivate a team, etc., etc. So then the one becomes very conscious of what are you saying to the team, and how do you generate belief? First of all, so therefore, when we say leaders, how do you manage change? I think first we have to, in anything, I think first thing is you have to learn to manage yourself. On how do you accept change? And once you have built in a conviction, then it's easy to take it forward. So for me, Prism was, everything else is mechanics, right? Once you have believed in a project, then things follow. Now we come to Slim, and I'll be honest, Slim, with jo S part hai, strategic, there is no strategic part in that. It's a good name to have, right? Many projects on the day when you want to come up with these fancy acronyms, and so somebody came up with this acronym. It's basically small improvements which you want to be done at the shop floor. right? Some of them it turned out to be strategic, right? But most of them began as tactical. So that's my honest admission. But here my learning, interestingly, was, again, when Prism began, Slim began to compete with Prism. And Slim was managed by my predecessor, one Mr. Belapure. And Prism was managed by me. And we suddenly found that on the shop floor, people would say, "Sir, ये idea किसको दें? Slim को दें कि Prism को दें?" So these are, let me tell you, these are the true things that you encounter. बाकी सब तो भाषण है. And people were not giving ideas because they didn't want to upset either me or Mr. Belapure. And suddenly you find meetings where chup baithe hain. Then it is after some time, you're having lunch with your boys and you're taking them out, and then people start opening up, "Sir, ये problem है, idea तो है, पर दे किसको? आपको देंगे तो बेलापुरा साहब नाराज हो जाएंगे. If I give it to him, you will get upset." And then I sat with Mr. Belapura, how do we sort it out? And then we created a framework and we had to then manage that change. But what I realized is, that we will make these fancy presentations, launch programs, etc., etc. But at the ground level, where what we say the rubber hits the road, right? That is where if your connection is lost, and if we did not get that insight from that one person who volunteered this feedback, we would perhaps have miserably failed in either Prism or Slim or both, maybe. The other thing which we were struggling at that time was rewards. How do you reward? And it's a very tricky thing, We don't believe in cash rewards as a person, because some organizations have come up with, okay, if this is the idea, this is the reward, etc., etc., etc. And we were like, do we want to build this culture? And I call it always the Shadi ki Ghodi culture. So the Shadi ki Ghodi culture is, if those of you who have seen a Bharat, right? So the Ghodi will walk for some time, then people dance in front of it, then it will again walk, then it stops, then you again dance, it will again. So I said, unless you keep dancing in front of your people, they will not walk, right? Is this the culture that you want to create? A reward-based thing? Or a typical picture you've seen is carrot hanging in front of the donkey. Incidentally, I read on some Google that somebody tried that experiment, it failed recently. The donkey did not walk at all when you hang the carrot. So donkeys are also smarter, people are even smarter. And so we then decided that we will not have a cash incentive linked to an idea. However, we have changed that stance recently, and now we are incentivizing people to give compliance ideas. And in pharma industry, one of the issues that we face is data integrity. But data integrity we have seen is of two types. One is wherein I'm lazy or I have a shift end coming. And my reasons are very interesting. My reason is I have a bus to catch, which will leave at 5 p.m. It's 4:40. And if I miss that bus, I'll have to spend 200 rupees on an auto rickshaw to reach home. That's a lot of money. So I am in a hurry to catch the bus, and the bus will not wait for one person. So what do? I tell the next person, "Yaar, tu sign kar dena. Main nikal raha hu." And I leave at 4:55, my punch out, and the sign is being done at 5:10. Because I'm not there on the turnstile, I'm punched out, right? These are things which happen, right? In my mind, actual chori is maybe 1% of the real cases. 99% is somebody. The other thing is, you've made the process itself so complex. And I always say, compliance and quality are not the same. Often compliance complicates C and C. And quality, actually good quality simplifies, right? And I don't think the regulator also intends to complicate. But the pharma industry, with our CAPA, sometimes we overdo and we overcomplicate our own systems. Anyway, now the point is that we said, you know what, if I ask people, do you do DI? Everybody says no. Because in Zydus, if we do DI and we find out, you are terminated. It's a simple, if this then that is very clear. So then we said, you know what, let's call it process simplification. So we drove an exercise that if you can help us simplify processes, And you cannot put this on posters. You don't want a US FDA coming in and say, please tell us cases of DI. Then they'll say, okay, show us the cases of DI. So what we said is tell us, and then we will reward. If you help us simplify processes, we will reward. So we delinked the reward from any financial savings, but we linked the rewards to giving an idea for compliance, and we didn't call it, we said process simplification. So if you simplify the process, instant reward, and then the best idea award, etc., etc. And that, we got some 3,000 ideas on where people were struggling. The BMRs were too complex, the batch records were too complex, or a process was very difficult to execute, or the BMR instruction was not clear, batch record instruction. So we said, okay, can you simplify this instruction? And then you go to the shop floor and you realize that, sir, you will relate to this. I went on shop floor and it says, keep shaking it, stirring it till it is viscous. Then I asked the operator, beta viscous matlab kya hai? Malum nahi, sir. But this is a reality. And you use such complex, because the person who's making the batch card is a scientist. And the person who's reading and executing is an operator. And they're two different worlds. And then now one of the improvements that came out is, we have not made the entire batch card as Hindi or Gujarati or different languages in different states that we are at. But now those difficult words we have in Hindi, because now most people are used to even writing in Roman script Hindi words on WhatsApp so we use that, and we have now started writing in bracket viscous gada. So then it is, and therefore we told the operators, tum batao beta isme se kaun se word mushkil hai. And suddenly you find 30% of BMR was difficult for them. And that is causing these things. You will have stupid things like instructions, and it's not their fault, it's my fault. Pour this slowly. Now your slowly and my slowly and your slowly will be different. And if I keep standing for 2 hours and keep pouring slowly, you cannot fault me for that. This is what the BMR says. And you may do it in 1 minute and you say, this is my slowly. So then we realize, so that is something which we are rewarding, those kind of things. But financial savings, again, your strategy can be different. I'm just sharing what we did. Because our fear is that financial savings are easy to manipulate. And we didn't want, because I have seen ideas which are what I call circular reference. So I can send one change part from one plan to another and I say, you know what, I avoided buying this change part. Hence 10% saving should accrue. Then the same change part comes again back to you. And then that plan says, I also saved buying the change part. And then you can keep sending the change part to each other and keep saving money for the next 5 years. Right? So we said, the behavior, what behavior do you want to encourage? And I always, HR uses the word PMS, Performance Management System, and I use the word BMS, it's actually Behavior Management System. If you are rewarding something, you're going to get it. And if you're rewarding financial savings, you will get financial savings, believe me, but after some time, you don't do the due diligence anymore. Somebody somewhere is certifying. So this was a big, how do you manage rewards, was a big change management for us. I think this is something which is relevant to all of us. We have been doing that. It's an expensive intervention. And I'm very happy that we are doing that. See, my learning is that execution is as good as communication of intent or communication of strategy. But eventually, what is strategy? Strategy is intent, right? What do you intend to do? That is strategy. And also, what do you intend not to do? So strategy is a combination of what you want to do and what you will not do. Right? Now, most organizations, unless somebody is a psychopath or sociopath, you will fall in line with your CEO. At a CXO level, you will listen to your boss. So therefore, that is a thick bonding. If boss says, we have to walk 5 steps every day, yes sir, 5 steps every day. Operators are also very, very executive. And then you write in the BMR, walk 5 steps every day. He will walk 5 steps every day. You tell him every day take a hammer and break a wall, he will break a wall every day. Because that's what he's been told. Our learning was, our middle management in India, we have never built it. And that's where a lot of translation losses happen. What we call the supervisor. The supervisor, poor guy, is mostly either filling documents, etc., and he's not actually doing supervision. So have we given him vision, or he's a super guy? None of that, right? So he's simply doing documentation, and often, the dynamics at the shop floor are very complicated. So operator supervisor dynamics are, I've been on the shop floor my only advantage is I've been there as the junior most guy, so I've been on the other side also of the shop floor. So you understand. One of the things that we learned was that we were having alarms on the machines. So you will relate to this. One machine, we were having 300 alarms in a shift. And the discussion started, I said, why do you have so many operators? You should reduce the operators. And this is how you can do it. And the operators are not doing anything great. Most of them, they're feeding, and you would have seen these lines. 70% of the thing is they're feeding cartons because the machine is operating at a certain speed. And you need to somebody is feeding leaflets, so he will so actually some other time the person is, one bottle will drop, you are there to make the bottle erect. So basically, either you are feeding the line with parts which can be automated, or your line itself has defects, or the machine stops because of an alarm, so somebody is addressing the alarm, machine stops. And we call the OEM, and we opened up the machine and reassembled the machine after repairs. 99% reduction in alarms. I'm not joking. 99% reduction. Imagine the operator. And they said, the painful thing was, operator said, "Sir, हम तो कब से बता रहे थे, फिर लोगों ने सुना नहीं, हमने बताना बंद कर दिया." So the point, and when we were implementing digitalization in Zydus, I realized, when I saw the dashboard the first time, that आपका ये काउंटडाउन चलता नहीं है, तो मेरे लिए अभी भी 30 minutes है. So then I realized that all the dashboards were focused on me. They were being made for Prashant Sharma. And we had a very bad first meeting with my team. I said, you need to make the operator's life simple. And if you're not focusing your dashboards on making his life simple things, he is calling a person for line clearance. And the QA person is not turning up. Now, he must be busy. But the point is, what are the potential things? Maybe the QA person will come late. Machine is not available. Shortcut. But if you start measuring it, so suddenly, if you start looking at your in-process quality assurance people, you start looking at operators solve their problems, build your programs around that, then suddenly your game changes. Here what we did was, we really realized that, we have, and as an industry, 15% attrition. It's a good salary increase program. I will work with company X for 2 years, and I go to you, 10-15% rise. So then, there's this incestuous relationship continues. And we have not built competencies. And my only request to all of you is, the only thing as leaders, if you can do, is build competency at shop floor. Believe me, 99% of your problems are gone. It's the same as alarm reduction. So we started working with the OEMs. And we realized that our preventive maintenance people were not very competent. And I always give simple examples to my team. Not many of you are from pharma, but in pharma we have 2 kinds of cleaning. One we call type A, one we call type B. Type A cleaning is when you are just changing from one batch to another, the product being same. It's called type A. But if I'm going from product A to product B, it's called type B. The cleaning has to be more intense. If you're eating paracetamol tablet, you don't want a blood pressure tablet remains to be there. But let me simplify it in how it happens at home. अभी आपने पनीर की सब्जी खाई थी, उसका टाइप भी बर्तन का अच्छा नहीं होता, तो उसमें हो सकता है मछली होती. That's type B failure, right? And I always tell my people, have you ever experienced at your home type B failure? Never. Never at your home would you have had टिफिन खोला, भिंडी की सब्जी होनी चाहिए थी, उसमें थोड़ा सा काशी फल भी पड़ा हुआ है. होता ही नहीं है. मिक्सअप भी नहीं होता है. So I was like, we can learn from, and some of the equipment at home are difficult to clean. Cooker ki seati is a difficult to clean part. And if it's not properly cleaned, you'll have 5 दिन पुरानी दाल के भी remains आपको मिलेंगे. The handle of the cooker is a difficult to clean. The gas stove itself is a difficult to clean equipment. पूरी assembly खुलती है, फिर वापस आप उसको reassemble करते हो, etc., etc. And we started talking to people in this language, tear down. And we realized that we had done some tear down exercises at our home, but we had never torn down our own equipment at workplace because nobody had taught us, right? Also, it's fearful, na? And I would tell them कि तुम्हारे कार में कितनी बार अलार्म आते हैं? कभी नहीं आता. And at home, you don't have a person who is in charge of preventive maintenance and breakdown maintenance, and your fridge never breaks down, your TV never breaks down, your fan never breaks down. ये फैक्ट्री में सबके सब ब्रेकडाउन होते रहते हैं, जहाँ पे पूरा तंत्र लेके बैठे हो आप चलाने के लिए. So what the only factor is, at home we run things carefully, and at factory we are not running things carefully. It's my simple takeaway, because what I know is the machine at my factory is more expensive than my car. And the digital system, PLC, HMI is more expensive than my TV, etc., etc. The washing machine has been running smoothly, and it has less moving parts than my compression machine. But it has been running very smoothly for 12 years. And I'm sure I use it more roughly, and I'm not trained. Nobody trained me and nobody qualified me to run washing machine. In pharma, we qualify people to be able to run a machine. But nobody qualifies you to, sometimes you will not even understand. That person will tell you something at the shop, then 50% buttons you will figure out at home. Ye kya tha button, kaisa tha, and then you flavor. So, but you're still able to run the machine, right? I don't know anybody has broken their own washing machine at your home, right? Your wife would have broken some bones also, but so then this is something which I encourage. We worked with the OEMs. It was very difficult for me to get this done. Why? Because your team does not want to tell you we do not know the machine. You have to let them say that. You have to let them accept that they do not know how to maintain the machine. Because this is the job, and we have not trained them well. It's not their fault. You have not asked it. How many times have you had a car maintained at your service center and it has come back with the same alarms or worse? No, never. But it happens with very expensive machines which cost upwards of 1 million or 2 or 3 million euros. And what also happens is that if you have an expensive car, you will not give it to somebody random, right? But you give very expensive machines whose depreciation cost itself will be $500,000 a year sometimes. And you'll give them to not very competent, trained people. So what we've done is, we've had OEMs come, open up the entire machine. When I say open up the entire machine, actually take it apart. All the operators, all the engineering team, they're there. Then the entire machine is examined, parts understood, parts explained. We have had experiences where our operators said, "Sir, we never knew that my conveyor belt is shaking because of this part being out, and how to do the setting of this part." And when the conveyor belt was set, bottle stopped falling, alarm stopped coming, machine stoppage is reduced, etc., etc. So then we also started a program called CLTI, Clean, Lubricate, Tighten, Inspect. So that CLTI program is an outcome wherein every shift beginning, we first do CLTI. And once we have done the CLTI, so all operators are trained for CLTI, they do first the CLTI. All of those who have run a Fiat, पहले तो आप गाड़ी गरम करते थे, पानी डालते थे, if you're on a long drive, etc., etc., right? So we are used to CLTI, etc. So this, and then where I had to manage change was, it called for a lot of spares being procured. And the team was afraid of telling that. And you have to inspire them, you have to give them confidence. If you say this, no problems. Batao. Because suddenly you find that you have a budget, revenue budget of 100 rupees, but because you're opening up machines, you're finding parts which are faulty and you did not know that they're faulty, right? So you're going to incur higher cost of maintenance for that particular year, but so be it. But then your team, see, these are unsaid things. Believe me, these programs fail because you have not communicated this explicitly to your team. They will not tell you that I'm afraid of suddenly coming up with a big list. And maybe in the past you've responded negatively to them. तुमको समझ नहीं पड़ता है, हमने budget ही नहीं किया, कैसे करेंगे? So that sentence which you said 2 years back will haunt you today when you want to actually repair and refurbish your machine. I don't have the graphs here, but we have had significant uptime improvement, productivity improvement, throughput improvement. I'm not measuring them because we are still not measuring negatives here. Because what happens is it's a very fearful thing when you measure just throughput. So the only thing we're measuring is breakdowns. And it's very important to agree what you want to measure. Because if you want to measure throughput, behavior management system, I can give you throughput in 500 ways. But if you want to just improve stoppages, alarms, and breakdowns, then you're improving the machine's health. Throughput is a byproduct then. You will get throughput because people are there, right? And when you're measuring that, their whole idea, their whole focus goes to machine health. That how do I keep improving machine health? So then the focus for our operational excellence became machine health. So this I can skip if I have time. This is another, I think I'll take this as the last, now it's only showing 10. So I have not 10 minutes. 10 ही दिखा रहा है. How much time do I have, actually? Okay. So, one of the things, and now, next time when you have this kind of conference, please invite President Trump also, because he is determining हम लोग क्या करने वाले हैं. So, but, we compete in the generic space and we have no margins, right? But the problem is, then you have also the regulator, right? So there's a huge compliance pressure and you have cost pressures and you're trying to figure out how to marry these two. And our average cost, we measure cost as cost per pill. And one of the challenges which we took was that how do I increase my batch sizes? And how do I improve productivity? So when this plant was conceived by me, now the point is that I'm not a qualified pharmacist. And therefore still, my pharma colleagues are not very willing to accept me and my inputs always at face value because aap to padhe nahi ho B Pharm, M Pharm. And it's a fair feedback also. I don't challenge that at all. So I'm saying, okay, it's a Jai Viru team. I'm the engineer, you are the pharmacist. So together we can do better than what one of us can do. So sir, this plant I would invite you to please visit one day. This plant we have batch sizes of like 2 crore pills, 6,000 kgs batch sizes. And this was a leap of faith plant. The machines had never been made in India at this scale, globally also. And I'm talking of global vendors like Gia, Glat, etc., etc. So they had never, so when I said this is what I want to do, okay, and for me the challenge was that this was my neck on the block. This was my idea, right? Now here, I think two things are important. One is how much of yourself are you willing to put on the stake when you want to take a big leap? Second thing obviously is, are you trusted? Now again, I could do this because the owners were willing to put in. I will not get into specific figures, but let me tell you, this was a very expensive CapEx project by any standard. And I remember when we were choosing the granulation line, and it is in what we call an integrated granulation line. So each granulation machine feeding 2 FBDs together, because then you optimize so on and so forth. And it's a vertical plant, which was again not a standard configuration. Normally you have horizontal plants. So this was a vertical plant. We were relying on gravity to do a lot of work for us, and machines that had never been built. So the vendor which I shortlisted was one which my team did not agree to. And they said, no, this guy has service issues, etc., etc. And we still, somehow my gut feeling was telling me this is the right thing. For those who want to explore what gut feeling can be, I'm not talking of the gut feeling, but there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and I forget the name, right? Blink, right? Which talks of this concept of gut feeling very nicely. So then I went to my boss, and the difference between the number one machine and number two was like Amitabh Bachchan and Bindu or whatever hero, वो जो उस time पे होता था. So some 20-30 crore rupees difference. And my boss said, are you convinced? I said, yes, if we have to succeed in this, we will go with the world's best. So we went with the world's best that there was in the equipment. Again, they had never made it. So I said, but if I have to fail, let me fail with the world's best rather than the world's second best. Cut to the chase, today we have successfully filed from this side. There's a global organization called ISP, Indian International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineers. They have an award called FOIA, Facility of Year Award. So we won that award as well. And here we did big bang innovation. We not only went for this machines, we went for 2 continuous quotas of 1000 kgs per hour. And my team was, ek le lo na, use the batch quotas. And we said no, when we are because that price point that we were targeting would not be possible with a normal batch quota. And we went for 2. And my team said, sir, let's order 1. And now again, none of what was being said at that time was wrong. My team was not wrong. They were sincere in that intent. They were just trying to maybe safeguard me only. That, ye marega. And, 2 batch quotas. And this was all built around COVID time. So we were, FATs were being done sometimes on video, Teams, etc., etc. And it's successful. I first of all give the credit to my bosses because it's their money. Right? If this had bombed, it was those people who had signed the check. But I think they also look at us, and the same thing holds for all of us. They will look at your own strength of conviction. Are you convinced? And your team also derives their conviction from which rolls back to the first discussion that we had, right? Prism. That if as a leader you're not convinced, you're anyway going to fail, so you might as well not try it. And this was a big, big, big leap of faith. And the number that we've now achieved is actually inspiring many in the pharma industry to attempt a similar plant. The only thing, luckily for us, is God knows what shape and form the tariffs will come. But hopefully, Zydus will be better prepared than most to face whatever comes our way. Because we were working on this for the last 4-5 years. And now we are taking the next leap. I was there incidentally to talk to an equipment manufacturer because the next plant that we're attempting also is similarly stupid and crazy. But I think, as most of you may agree, your biggest successes must have begun with a crazy, stupid thought only. Because logical thoughts will only give you linear results. If you want to do stupid, crazy things, they will have to be non-linear. And non-linear is not linear. Right? So you will have to jump and risk a few bones. And sometimes, this project could have failed. I would have lost a job, perhaps, or may not. God knows. But there were enough people ready to write my obituary. This is a non-pharma guy, he's trying to do this, etc., etc. And you're aware of that. But that's fine. All of us will have to step outside our labeled competency. Because we are quick to brand people into slots, right? You are manufacturing, you are quality, etc., etc. And in my mind, the only person who's doing quality in the entire organization is the operator. If he doesn't understand quality, आप कितना QA बैठा दो कुछ नहीं होने वाला. If the operator is with you on quality, minus QA, you will get good quality. Which is, I think, also the Japanese concept, right? But our response always is, add more supervisors. So here, one more thing we did was, I had been to an IM Ahmedabad class, and there's a professor, Saral Mukherjee, and he spoke of this concept called, you will see this cheetah and elephant in the first line. And so I found this concept fascinating. And his concept is that elephant is built for scale and cheetah is known for agility. And all our plants are हाथी का नाक और शेर की पूंछ और घोड़े के बालों में भगवान जाने, we have all kind of animals fitted to, and we very, very carefully created two different blocks. So the small volume block is normal batch sizes, and it's a cheetah where we design for agility. And the elephant, it takes me 2 days to clean it, right? Because there are tons of pipe which are moving around, right? And it's all automated. There's no way you can ever clean those pipes manually. So the point was that what I would like to take these sessions, classes. I mean, I took one seriously, and I owe the thought genesis to Professor Saral Mukherjee. And there's a book also by him. It's available on Amazon, Elephants and Cheetahs. So those in operational efficiency, I encourage you to go buy that book and build a plant after that concept. So yes, so this is what we did. And therefore now it has operational efficiency inbuilt. Now, what we thought is, why do we want to, can we build a plant wherein there is no scope to do Kaizen? Again, it's not true. Every plant can keep improving forever. But with at least 80% to address to pehle din se, whatever things we can think of should be there. The plant that we are now working on is a plant wherein I want to design a dark plant. My brief to the team is, I will not let an operator go inside the process room at all. So HMI also will be outside the process room. You want to run the machine, run it from outside the room. So that's a concept that we are beginning with. And my colleague I had sent to China. China is already ahead of us. I think 50 years, 100 years, 500 years, God knows what. They are doing things, which are fancy for us. I mean, they're inspecting tablets as they fall from the counter to into the bottle. In that micro nanosecond, the tablet is being 360-degree inspected. So it's inspirational, but then it forces you to think, okay, what more can I take a leap of faith on? And this is the last thing. I will end with this. Please copy this, use this. All my promotions at shop floor today happen basis what we call a technical assessment center. I have zero line of sight into my operator. If you say your operator is very good, I believe he's very good. Now, he may be from your state, region, caste. He may be calling you sir every day. And a better operator may not be calling you sir every day. I do not know. I only get an Excel file in which I get ratings. And you will always get complaints, sir, mere ko supervisor ne theek se rate hi nahi kiya, maine ye kaam kiya. So today, for the last 3 years, if you want to get a promotion in Zydus, you apply. Either your boss nominates you. If your boss doesn't nominate you, you can self-nominate. If you self-nominate, it gives you a right, and if you get promoted, it gives you a right automatically to seek a transfer to any unit, any department. Because then your boss may not be happy कि तूने मुझे bypass करके promotion ले लिया. We foresee this, right? So second thing is, you can only self-nominate if you have not been promoted in the last 2 years. And if you fail, you will not get promoted for the next 2 years. So be careful if you're self-nominating. But then it's an online assessment plus case study. Now the case studies have been made by us, all basis actual deviations, actual out of specification, actual out of trends, etc., etc. And these are all, we will have a batch card in which few things will be missing. Fill in the blank, what we used to do in the childhood. Those kind of things. And you will be given the case study. Assessors are not from your site. Assessors were trained from all the sites. Just like in grade 10 and 12, you will recall, you will not write your name on the answer sheet. There would be a code. The panel of 3, one is always of quality function, one is from HR, the third is from your function. So if you are from warehouse, one from quality, one from HR. If you are from manufacturing, quality, HR, so on and so forth. Now, all of these three people are not from your site. They are from different sites. They are also not from the same site. Three people, three different sites, so they cannot collude. They will not ask your name. You will not ask their name. There's a camera in the room which records, so that if a person appeals, I can go back to this session and check whether the case study discussion was good. So your actual knowledge gets tested. Our belief is, it could be, we will know whether the hypothesis is correct or not. Till manager level, we want to promote basis only and only technical knowledge. We want to simply tell the shop floor, if you are good technically, you will keep growing. After senior manager, we introduce behavioral competence also. So our only filter till manager is technical excellence. Basis this technical assessment center. Once you are a manager, you want to become a senior manager, then there's a behavioral assessment. Once you are a DGM to GM, then there's a third party behavioral assessment, which is a one-day assessment where there's a company called SHL. It's a MNC, and they do the assessment for us. Like I told you, there's a pre-assessment of competencies, 1 year learning and development journey, and then a post-assessment. And if you've shown improvement in your competencies, you get promoted. But these are all behavioral competencies. So that's the model that we created, and my belief is that over the next 5-7 years, this program will yield benefit when all of these boys who would then be boys and girls who would be then getting promoted on technical excellence, then start getting filtered on behavioral competence, would reach certain levels. And the message now is, no system is perfect. You can find 100 flaws in the system. Is it fair? It is fair. It is devoid of biases, human biases. And none of you can say that I have not felt wronged once in my life for not getting promoted or my friend getting promoted. So this system allows you to apply for a promotion, or your boss nominates you, process remains same. It's a completely within Zydus third-party assessment. So I'm done. I don't know whether, but this is all Gyan. So thank you, and if I have time, I'm happy to take any questions.
I think we should take questions.
Anybody wants to implement TAC at your site, company will be very happy to help you. We cannot give you case studies, but other than that, my team will be very, very happy to help you establish the TAC. We are now going in for TAC 2.0 because we're getting a lot of feedback on how the case studies can be more contextual and relevant.
I like the portion where you say that you, till the manager level, you judge them on technical and then the behavior. I think that's something we were struggling with also.
It's a hypothesis. We hope, but right now, so the technical competence and hopefully the whole system is delivering fairness.
No, it's a good. Thank you.
Any other question?
Good. Then thank you so much, and thank you, Jansan, again for inviting me here. Thank you.